I believe that the God of the Bible is a real, living, true, holy person who loves us more than we could ever imagine. Sometimes it's only in the difficulties and challenges he gets to prove that in us, and we get to realise that and recognise that it's a real, very real thing.
So we're here today to hear the life story of Becky Willby, and Becky's life, she had expectations for how life would look, but actually it didn't turn out quite as she'd hoped life would go, but found really amazing blessing in an unexpected twist of life. So we're going to hear her story now. So Becky, it's great to be chatting with you today. Tell us a little bit about yourself first, where you're from, and a little bit of your journey to get to Birmingham, where you live now.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, I was born and raised in Coventry, so not that far away really. I was born into a Christian family, had Christian parents, and from very young age sort of knew my parents' faith to be very real, very much about a relationship with God, a relationship with Jesus, and not just a set of facts or things that we just did on Sunday. So grew up in a great environment really, and from a young age found the person of Jesus to be quite attractive, because I saw that in my parents, and I saw that the way that they reacted to life's events, they were very real about things that were difficult, and yet they always invited Jesus into the situation to help them cope with life really. Yeah.
So is that something that you just took on from your parents, or did you have a personal faith that developed?
I think, I can't actually pinpoint exactly when I started wanting to become a Christian, but I do remember one night when I was sitting on the sofa with my older sister and my dad, and we were talking about what it meant to be a Christian. And my sister and I were saying, well, how do we become Christians? What do we need to do? And my dad just said, well, you just ask Jesus to come into your heart and be Lord of your life. And I knew that was something that I wanted, even though I was very young.
Yeah, do you remember how old you were?
I think I was about 6 or 7,
yeah.
And my older sister about 8 or 9. And so that was the beginning of my journey of faith, really. I wouldn't say that I had everything figured out then, but I knew that God was with me, and that I wanted to live a life with him from now on.
Yes, and often the teenage years can be quite turbulent. Were your teenage years straightforward, or did they have some challenges in for your faith?
Yeah, I found teenage years quite difficult at times. I always had a strong drive to achieve and accomplish things, and that it actually became a bit like my worth was dependent on what I achieved. So that was unhelpful.
And you were very
ways.
Bright. So you're a vet?
Eventually I went to university
yes.
To study veterinary medicine, but yeah, I mean that wasn't always an easy time.
No.
I think because I had such high expectations of myself,
yes.
and worked really hard. I actually went through a period of depression then, which didn't make me question my faith as such, but it really brought home to me whether this was a real thing or not. Was this a real faith that you had? And it was during that time that the Bible became so precious to me, because God's word, the words that were written about God, his love, his faithfulness, his steadfastness, his always being with us, they actually became lived experience through my time of depression. And his word became true to me and real to me in a way that hadn't before, and actually laid the foundation for many things I think that I've been through since.
Yeah, wow. So let's fast forward to you're working, you're hoping to get married maybe one day, and you're meeting Mr. Right or whatever. So how did that unfold for you?
Yeah, my first job was in Banbury in Oxfordshire, in a very nice place, as a veterinary surgeon working there. And I went to a church where I met John. He was studying at Bible College, but in holiday times he would come back to his sending church, his church that supported him in Banbury. We met there and then got married the following year. And then we moved to Wales because he wanted to continue his studies in theology. So we went and lived in Wales for a few years. Yeah.
And then you kind of got to the stage, I guess, in the relationship where you thought, it might be nice to start a family now. So was that straightforward? Did you get pregnant quickly? Was it straightforward, the plan to start a family?
Well, yeah. I mean, a couple of years after we got married, I became pregnant, and we were delighted. And we were offered tests, as is standard nowadays, tests for all sorts of abnormalities that might be there with the baby. But John and I both felt that these tests wouldn't, the results wouldn't change anything. They wouldn't change the approach that we had to having this baby. This life was precious. And we trusted God that he would give us the resources to cope whatever, whatever the baby had, or whether the baby was healthy or whether the baby wasn't.
Yes, yeah. And we've, we talked at the beginning, sort of the title of this, sort of the unexpected happening, because that very thing happened in a sense, wasn't it? You had expected to have a straightforward birth, straightforward, healthy baby, and what emerged was slightly different to that, wasn't it? So tell us what's your story of how the unexpected kind of came in? Yeah,
I suppose the thing is, I'm quite an optimist anyway, I think, and you always know that there could be things wrong, but it wasn't a big factor in my mind. And as the birth approached, I didn't really have any great worries. And actually, when Laurel was born, she seemed perfectly fine. Everybody who checked her, paediatricians, nurses, they felt she was fine. And we were very happy, and she was a very content baby. And so we took her home and just carried on life as normal. But after 4 weeks, she wasn't gaining weight so well and not feeding so well. So the health visitor came and assessed her and said, I think that you should go to the hospital this afternoon. I've booked you an appointment to see the paediatrician. We just went. We thought, well, she's been very thorough. We'll go down.
Yes, you both went.
Yeah, we both went.
Baby Laurel as well, this gorgeous little girl you've got.
Yeah, that's right. We saw a lovely doctor who said, well, I'm just going to do a whole load of tests, including a chromosome check, just for completeness. He was so professional and easygoing the way he said it.
Yes.
It didn't make me think that anything was amiss. Results took about 4 weeks to come through, and Laura
gained weight.
Yeah, she did. She was doing really well by that point.
Yes.
We got breastfeeding pretty much cracked, and so I actually went on my own to see the paediatrician, see the consultant, because I didn't think there would be any problem. Got there and he said everything's fine, but we haven't had the chromosome check back. So we'll give you a call when it's back. Went home, and that afternoon his secretary rang and said, we'd like to see you in clinic, both you and your husband, in 2 days' time. Then we knew something was wrong, because they don't call you in for normal results. So the next 48 hours were really strange, because there was this incredible feeling of, we're going to face this really bad news, potentially. We know there's something wrong with our daughter's chromosomes. Now, that's never anything great, is it? But also a tremendous sense of peace that God had got this and that we didn't need to worry.
Did you pray as a couple? Was that something you...
I can't honestly remember, Rachel, but I do know we talked about it. We talked about what might be, but there was such a calmness and a peace about that we weren't stressing.
Yes.
Although by the time it was an afternoon appointment, and by the time we got there, I was quite nervous.
Had you fast forwarded in your mind? I mean, I'm trying to put myself in that sort of sense of what would this look like if Laurel has got Down syndrome? What had you started to process how your life would look so different, or did you not got to that place even? Yeah, no,
I'd actually. I mean, this is 25 years ago. Google wasn't so advanced, but I did do some looking on the internet, and none of what I could find was great. And I do remember saying to John, you don't think she's got Down syndrome, do you? And we both thought, no, that's impossible. She just doesn't have the classic features, a lot of them. And we kind of put it out of our minds and then just sort of let it be and just wait until the appointment time.
So you're at the appointment.
Yeah, we're at the appointment.
You know there's some news that they've required both of you.
Yeah.
You've got this sense that there's not going to be good news, but you don't know what it is. So how did the doctor tell you, and was it done well, and how did you guys respond?
Yeah, he was brilliant. He didn't mess around. He just said, I'm afraid to tell you that Laurel has Down syndrome. Well, there's only probably 2 or 3 times I've really been shocked in my life, and this was one of them, because it honestly felt like a real force hit me in the chest. It was really a powerful, painful moment that's hard to express, actually. And I felt, I was looking down at her. We were looking down at her in my arms, and she was fast asleep, as she often was, because she was just so well behaved as a baby. And for the first time, I could actually see it. I could see it in her closed eyes, and I could see, but I felt so guilty. I felt the overwhelming feeling was guilty that I didn't know this about my own baby.
Yeah. You're the mum, you've had this baby.
Yeah,
and
that
so
I'd had for 8 weeks.
Yes.
And that was, I wasn't prepared for that emotion at all. Yeah. And it made me realise that the range of emotions that we go through when things happen to us, there's no rule book for that.
No.
But it's okay to feel those things, and God understands. And, the guilt passed then to sadness, I think, and concern for her health, because I didn't remember a lot of more of what the consultant said, but he did say, we've got to test this, do this, that, and all these things that we've got to make sure she hasn't got wrong with her, like heart problems, thyroid, other stuff going on. And so, and thankfully those things were fine with time, but there was a lot of period of adjustment, telling family. That was hard, but wonderful as well, because I had such tremendous support from my parents and John's parents and my sisters.
And John at the time, how did John find that as well?
Yeah, I mean, he found it very hard, but he did say what an opportunity this is. He could see that actually this wasn't the worst possible news that could happen. We had, in many senses, a very healthy, beautiful daughter, and so there was very much a potential there for her, and that she'd been given to us as a gift.
Yeah, amazing. So did any sort of helpful things people said to you at the time? Do you remember back to sort of things people did say, or what were the things that steered you and helped you get through those early days?
I think it was just people being there, and people offering to babysit and not being afraid to do that, bringing us meals, praying for us, and just being there. It was tremendous. People in our church family, friends' family, were so supportive. Yeah. So
fast forward a little bit in life, sort of how has life been with Laura? You went on to have Henry as well, so you've got she's got a brother, and they've got each other too. So tell us life with Laurel and life with a child. Many people listening in maybe have got a child with Down syndrome as well. Tell us what life's been like.
Yeah, as I say, we're very grateful because she's very healthy, and she's, what can I say about Laurel? She makes people smile. And I think that's the overwhelming thing when I was thinking about what to say about Laurel. She makes people smile. She makes me smile. She's got a fantastic sense of humour, and she just loves people. Particularly, she loves the marginalised, the vulnerable, the babies, the elderly. She just hones in to help people. If people are in need, she will help them. There's an integrity, I think, about Laurel. Not a simplicity, because she's not simple. No one is simple. But she has an integrity, and there's a face value about her, that what you see is what you get, and there's a genuineness. I have to say that she's taught me so much. She has a very real faith.
Yes.
And her prayers humble me. And times when I get irate about things or lose my temper, she'll remind me
spiritually. She's a spiritual encourager, isn't she?
Yeah.
She does.
She is.
She massively encourages people spiritually.
She has struggles. She gets anxious about things. That's been an ongoing journey. But she knows that, and she recognises that in herself, and she wants to overcome those things, and very often she does. She's a real overcomer, I think. And she asks God to help her with those things she finds difficult. We pray about them together, and we talk them through as well. But life isn't easy for her at times, and she was diagnosed with autism in 2016 as well, which explained a lot of the things that she finds difficult in life, some of the sensory issues that she has with loud noises and those sorts of things that she struggles with. And when she was little, it was difficult for us as a family at times, because she would tend to run off. She'd see something she wanted to go and see. Well, I'm going to run off. And, I can remember when we were on a beach on holiday, and I did a little experiment to see how far she would go. And She was literally a little dot in the distance, and I had to go after her, and she didn't look back once. So that was particularly hard, I think, for Henry, her brother. Although he handled it incredibly well, and we just worked out a way as a family of doing things. But it would often mean that day trips or holidays were difficult because one of us would be with one child and one with the other. It's very difficult to sort of keep them together while one was trying to run off. And but it's worked for us. We've worked out ways of doing things with support from people. And
did you, in the midst of all that, because even as you talk like that, and I'm sure there's lots more stories you could tell, how things were quite challenging sometimes in your situations, and perhaps you just felt exhausted and there was nowhere to go. Did you ever, in some of the really tough times, particularly, sort of feel where is God in this, or why God did this be my path, or did those sorts of questions come through, the why questions I suppose we could call them?
I don't think I ever questioned why or questioned God's goodness, but there was a process of working that out and what it meant. And I think that took me back to that time when I had depression in university. I know these truths, but what does it mean, and how do I work these out into the experience I'm having? But God helps to do that, and it's as we are honest with him and express how we feel. I mean, he knows how we feel anyway, but when we talk to him about it, it's an expression of trust and dependence on him. And it's working that out. It's working it out into, as I said at the beginning, a lived experience. And that's what he wants for us. He doesn't want us to be just having a set of head knowledge facts about him, because I believe that the God of the Bible is a real, living, true, holy person who loves us more than we could ever imagine. And sometimes it's only in the difficulties and challenges that we actually get to, or he gets to prove that in us, and we get to realise that and recognise that it's a real, very real thing, living a life with him as our Lord. But such a blessing in that as well, as we work through that and find that actually what he's bringing to us through these challenges is far outweighs the difficulties and the challenges. And so I never for once would think, no, I want things to be different, in the sense that I wish Laurel hadn't got Downs, and because that was part of the blessing that she brought to us, was us getting to know God more through getting to know her more, really, I suppose. Yeah.
Amazing. Because I was going to ask you the question, other people might have a different situation to yours. Things happen in life that are really unexpected and hard quite at times. So I guess your advice to somebody in that position, whatever their particular hard thing that they're going through is, would be exactly what you've just said. And anything you'd want to add to that, any encouragement for people who perhaps are going through something at the moment that's unexpected in their lives? Yeah,
I mean, when bad things happen to us, we can feel broken. We can feel completely broken and vulnerable. But for me, at times when I felt like that, I've really sensed that there is someone with me who knows what it's like. And in fact, that person is Jesus, because I believe that he was sent to us to save us from the sin that we all have, the sin that separates us from God when we rebel against him as our creator, our sustainer, our provider, our deliverer. But he was broken for us. He came and died in our place to take that sin away, so that we can have that lived experience of knowing God. There's no longer any separation. And actually, when we take the risk, when we put God to the test and take him at his word, that we can know that peace, and we can have that treasure within us. There's a verse that's very precious to me in the Bible, and it says, but we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. I'm the jar of clay. We are people of, we're weak. We can't do a lot in ourselves, but within us we can have the treasure of Jesus, who can make all the difference and help us to go into those dark places, difficult places in life, whether it's our own or with other people, to comfort, to bring hope, and to bring the good news that Jesus can bring to us.
Amazing, thank you, Becky. And you've got 2 adult children now. Life is moving on. That seems probably a long time ago, maybe now, that first the doctor's appointment and all the rest of it. What's the future looking like for you guys? Where are you heading?
I think, we all have expectations. I've still got expectations. I expect, that of the future, and yet I think God has taught me to hold them loosely, really, but that I can trust Him whatever comes, because He has proved Himself in the past. And so we look forward to future milestones that Laurel makes, but also that Henry makes as well. And we know that our God is faithful and that He's with us whatever happens.
We have an amazing family, Becky, and thank you so much for sharing your story today and just sharing a little window into the Willby world, if you like.
My pleasure.
So thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.